They had 5 children together, and the father, over the years, abused 3 of his own daughters, leading to the birth of 24 more children. Those children were, at the same time, his sons and daughters, and also his grandchildren. Some of the younger generation then had relationships with one another. On paper, the family tree collapsed into a loop. A granddaughter could be described, in a twisted way, as her grandmother's mother, and the grandmother and granddaughter could be considered sisters. If that already sounds impossible to follow, you're not alone. Let's untangle it. This is a real case from Australia, one that pushed past basic moral lines. It centers on a hidden clan reported in the media under a pseudonym often translated as the Colt family. Over 60 years, 38 relatives lived largely cut off from society, and many children were born through intrafamily abuse. The relationships were so tangled that even veteran investigators were stunned. The story broke because of a little girl we'll call Nadia. In 2013, at 7 years old, she slipped away to a nearby town for the first time. She was wearing dirty, ill-fitting clothes and couldn't find her family, so people brought her to child services. They arranged school enrollment, and on her first day in the classroom, during recess, she told a desk mate something horrifying. Her 9-year-old sister slept with family, and that in a year or 2 it would be her turn. The classmate told the teacher called the police, and Nadia repeated that she had already been made to sleep with an older brother at age 5. That was enough for authorities to move immediately. Police began looking for her relatives, but almost nobody in town knew anything about them. The family had lived deliberately out of sight. Over the next 2 years, investigators pieced together a picture that only got more disturbing. For clarity, here's the family map using the names commonly reported or translated. First generation, a man we'll call Tim and a woman called June. They had 5 surviving children, 3 daughters, Rhonda, Betty, and Martha, and 2 sons, Roderick and Charlie. From the second generation onward, the abuse escalated. Tim, the father, exploited his 3 daughters over roughly 2 decades, resulting in 24 births. Those children were simultaneously Tim's offspring and, because their mothers were his daughters, his grandchildren, and that count includes only the children who survived. To keep his daughters continually pregnant, Tim all but abandoned a normal marriage with June and rotated among the daughters' sleeping areas. As appalling as that is, it wasn't the end of it. The 2 sons, Roderick and Charlie, also fathered children with their sister Martha. One of those children is the Nadia we met at the start. Altogether, these 26 children formed the 3rd generation. There was also a case that broke kinship terms entirely. A daughter of Tim's, reports render her name as Rylene, gave birth to Kimberly. Depending on which branch of the tree you follow, Kimberly could be described as her mother's daughter and, in family lore, also ranked as an elder to people who would normally be older generations. In short, job titles in this family stopped making sense. The dysfunction spilled into day-to-day life. Betty's own daughter, Petra, clashed with her mother over a relationship with their uncle Charlie. Generational lines and age gaps meant little. According to interviews, some girls grew up believing that having children within the family was simply how things worked, and that their own children would likely come from relatives too. Family members even treated pregnancies like a grim guessing game, speculating about paternity as if it were casual gossip. How did this begin? Tim and June themselves were not a typical couple. According to reporting, Tim was born in New Zealand in 1943. June, his younger sister, was born 5 years later. As they grew up, boundaries fell away. They began a sexual relationship. When their parents found out and tried to separate them, Tim took June to Australia. They settled on the outskirts of New South Wales, cut ties with wider society, and had 7 children together. 2 died shortly after birth, likely due to genetic issues. 5 survived and, outwardly, appeared mostly typical. Most people, faced with obvious risks of genetic disorders, would reverse course. Tim did the opposite. He reportedly told June that outsiders can't be trusted, and that only blood ties could keep the family safe and united. Together, they built an isolated world with their own rules, at enormous cost to the children. Of the children Tim later fathered with his daughters, many had medical complications. One baby girl was born with a rare multi-organ syndrome and died soon after. Investigators documented numerous congenital issues among the 25 surviving children: facial asymmetries, eye placement anomalies, hearing problems, and signs of premature aging in some young adults. This is exactly what doctors warn about when close relatives have children. The risk of severe genetic disorders skyrockets. Control started early. As Tim and June's first daughters hit puberty, Tim groomed and abused them. He singled out a 12-year-old for praise and treats when she complied. using rewards and status to normalize the behavior and to coerce the others. Over time, the girls accepted Tim's warped worldview. That was the pattern: isolation, indoctrination, and abuse. Their living conditions also reflected the isolation. The family camped deep in the bush, in torn tents and makeshift huts. No plumbing, no electricity, no gas, no private bedrooms. They salvaged furniture and clothes from roadside piles and dumps, often unwashed. Many children suffered skin infections and dental decay. It was a level of deprivation you'd expect authorities to catch, but the family moved and stayed out of sight. June died in 2001, Tim died in 2009. After that, Betty became the de facto head and moved the group elsewhere in New South Wales. The secrecy held until Nadia walked into town. Once authorities intervened, police and child protection teams removed the minors and sent them for medical care. The youngest, including Nadia and Ruth, were later placed with foster and adoptive families. Reports note adoptions in 2020 for some of the youngest children. Court proceedings followed. In 2013, the Children's Court of New South Wales weighed in on custody and protection orders. Later, criminal allegations targeted several adults. Betty served a short custodial term in 2014 for offenses related to child endangerment. She was released in 2015. Charlie was charged over alleged assaults on Petra. That case was later withdrawn by prosecutors, and a court awarded him damages for wrongful prosecution. In 2016, Martha posted online trying to locate her son Albert, apparently to resume a relationship that courts had already condemned. And in 2018, Betty, together with another daughter, was arrested after attempting to confront a foster family caring for one of the boys. Police stopped the incident before anyone was hurt. If you're thinking, how could this go on so long? That's the question Australian authorities asked too. The answer is a mix of isolation, fear, learned behavior, and the way trauma can be passed down when no one from the outside steps in. There's also a clear lesson here. The difference between people and animals isn't just intelligence, it's ethics and responsibility. In this case, those responsibilities were abandoned, and children paid the price. Nadia's appearance in town forced the truth into daylight. It led to medical care, foster placements, and, for at least some of the youngest kids, a chance to grow up in safe homes. That doesn't undo the harm, but it stopped the cycle. That's the story, sanitized of graphic detail but faithful to the facts as reported, of the hidden Colt clan, how a closed world formed, how it harmed generation after generation, and how one 7-year-old, simply by speaking up, finally brought help. If you value deep dive reporting like this, please like the video so it reaches more people, and if you or someone you know needs help, reach out to local child protection or counseling services. No one should have to navigate this alone.